Hey everybody, welcome back. So very quickly, I just wanted to just address yesterday, if you were in class with me and you did check into the live Zoom, it was a lot going on, very distracting. First yoga class that we had live Zoom outside, there was about 6 other groups that were out there using the fields and the pavilion space. So it was extremely distracting, very loud, and it was really hard to really focus on what we were doing yesterday. So that being said, until we are in the school, instead of having classes outside, just please bear with me. We're trying to kind of iron out some of these kinks and find out what's going to work the best for everybody. So as it stands, as of today, which is Tuesday, you are going to check in with me via the Zoom link. Okay, so check in live, and then I will instruct you on what you're going to do moving forward. So today I'm going to tell you that you're going to watch this video. We're going to quickly review what we did yesterday for those of you that weren't with us. I know some of you kind of missed the link and there was some confusion, so I apologize for that. Just please bear with me trying to figure out what's going to work best for everybody, myself included. So one of the things that we talked about that I didn't really get into much detail because there was just so much going on, but the limbs of yoga. So if you're a returning student, you will know this. This will be a review. It's something that we talk about a little later usually in the semester, but we are changing things up this year, obvious reasons, okay? So we talked about ahimsa, but we didn't really talk about like what that is and why that's important to the yoga world, the yoga practice. So there are 8 things, Chris, things that make yoga what it is, and the movement is one of the 8. So if you think of your body as yoga, so just your torso is yoga, your core. The limbs, your arms and your legs, if you had double what you have now, are going to be the other parts that make yoga what it is. Okay, so this here is the body. These are the things that make it come together to yoke and unite. Okay, so the 8 limbs of yoga, so they are called limbs, not arms, not legs, but I will accept those answers. I'm not going to tell you all of them right now, but last week we went over 3. The first one was one of your vocabulary words, which is asana, and you're going to need to know that word for sure. You've got to know that by the end of today if you don't already have that down. And asana means pose or posture. You're hearing it over and over again. Balasana, shavasana, utkatasana, like everything has that asana at the end of its name. That's the Sanskrit word for pose. So that is like the thing that we think is just yoga is only one little piece of it. The other thing we worked on last week was mindfulness and meditation. That is also one of your limbs. And pranayama. We didn't give it a name, but we did practice breathing, and that is a very big part of yoga as well. So prana is life force. It actually translates to life force. Pranayama is the practice of breathing. So if you don't have oxygen in your body, in your lungs, if you're not breathing, you are not alive. So in order to live, we must have prana. So the other 2 limbs that we're going to kind of dig into a little bit over the next few days and weeks are your yamas and the niyamas. The yamas are like the don'ts, and the niyamas are the do's. And I don't like to use the 10 commandments to really like explain what they are, but think of them like your principles and attributes here at Gerstel Academy. So the things that we are expected to do and the things we are expected not to do in school and in life, there's very similar things here in yoga. So the yamas are what we're going to touch on right now, and it's spelled Y-A-M-A-S. This will be one of the questions you have to answer at the end of the video today on the discussion board. Yama, so just to reiterate, is the don'ts, okay? So the first yama, there is 5 yamas, there's 5 niyamas. The first yama is ahimsa, and that means non-violence. And we did sort of talk a little bit about it, but just to kind of dig in superficially, ahimsa is non-violence, and this is one reason why a lot of yogis may be vegan, they don't want to hurt animals. But I want to challenge you to think beyond that, because if you really, really want to dig in and like go deep here, like if you cut a plant to get the vegetable for it, you are still cutting, and technically that's harmful, right? And if you really, 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 really want to dig in. So it's a very broad statement. But the thing that I want to really drive home for you all, and if you're a returning student, this will be very familiar, but it's still important. Even myself as a grown-up, I still struggle with this, is our negative self-talk. And those of you that are new, you may not even realize that you have that in your life. So, just start to observe the way that you talk to yourself. This is a really good time to really kind of dig into how we are talking to ourselves, because it's frustrating. I'm in the same boat as you, maybe a little bit different, but we went from doing nothing for 5 to 6 months to, oh my goodness, my schedule is so full, I can't even get my head on straight. So I'm feeling very overwhelmed, and the thing that keeps popping up in my mind is, I have so much to do, I'm never going to get it done. I'm never going to get it done, I can't do this. And that is a negative self-talk. So I need to really change what I'm saying to myself. And so what I've been doing recently is, when I'm starting to feel a bit anxious, I just kind of slow myself down and take a couple of deep breaths, right? That is such a good piece of advice. So I'll just breathe in and I'll say, I'm breathing in goodness. And then as I exhale, I'm breathing out negativity. And then I just kind of do that a few times until I feel my heart rate start to slow down and I put it into perspective. So that really is, to me, the most important part of ahimsa, is how we talk to ourselves and how we talk to other people. If we start at ourselves, we are probably not going to talk to other people in a negative way, right? We're going to be a little bit more self-aware, which means we're going to be more cautious about the things we say out loud, because now we know that we're being negative, or we're being mean, or we're just not paying attention to somebody else's feelings, even our own. We start to believe the things that we tell ourselves over and over again. So that's it for today. Your question that I'm going to have you answer is, how do you spell yamas? Okay. How many limbs are a part of the yoga, world? And yes, what is one thing that you want to change that you're saying to yourself? Okay, so 3 questions. All right, very quickly, we're going to go over the poses that we talked about yesterday, just to make sure. So I'd like you to do them, please. Do them with me so that you are doing them well, and when we get to our sequencing next week, you guys are going to slay, all right? So quickly, to remind you, Tadasana is your mountain pose. You are not standing like this. Your arms are not swinging. You are tall, proud, and long, lifted and strong. From your Tadasana, pick up all 10 of your toes and rock your feet in and out a little bit. These are the 4 corners of your feet, and they are very important for when you are standing, because once you get the 4 corners of your feet rooted into your yoga mat or into the ground, then the rest of your body is strong and long, and we are lifted. So you'll pull up from the bottoms of your feet, engage the muscles of your legs, pull your abs up and in, roll your shoulders back and down, and lengthen out of your arms. Biceps are on, triceps are on, forearms are working, all muscles firing. This is your Tadasana. From here, we'll move into our chair pose, Utkatasana. So the arms are going to lift up overhead. You're going to squeeze the inside of your legs together. Inner thighs are touching. Pretend you're sitting back into a kindergartner's chair. So you want to let your body weight move back into your heels and sit down into your glutes. Belly is strong, chest is lifted, Utkatasana, chair pose. From here, we will go into our forward fold. Forward fold is anytime you fold your body forward, or think about your torso laying on top of your thighs. We did talk a little bit about this. If I said touch your toes, and this is how you try and do it, you are going to hurt your lower back. This is terrible, terrible. Look where my bottom is. It's behind my feet. My knees are straight and locked out. My low back is really mad at me right now, so we're going to fix it. So if you were to stand up and I said touch your toes, the correct way is to hinge or fold from your hips, start to bend your knees until you can get your belly onto your thighs. Once you get your belly and your legs together, you can release your arms. So I'm just going to move my arms for a second. You want to make sure that your weight is in between the heels and the balls of the feet, so you're not sitting back into your heels and your glutes, but you're right in the center of your feet here. And my knees are pretty bent. I've seen people come at it from here, and this is fine if this is where you need to start. But once you get that, try to lengthen the backs of your hamstrings to the ceiling. Okay, if you never get the legs straight, that's okay. I'd rather you have bent knees all the time and feel good in the pose than to lock things out and compromise your form. From here, Ardha Uttanasana is your half lift. So this is also something you're going to see a lot of here in the coming future. Fingertips to the shins. You will straighten the arms until they're completely straight. The crown of your head is in a line with the tailbone. So we've got a nice flat back. We're not rounding. We're not curling. Everything is flat here, okay? And then from here, we're going to move into our high plank. So plant your hands, step 1 foot back at a time. High plank. Think about cat-cow for a little bit. So if you arch your upper back a touch, you should feel the weight come off of your wrist. Now, try to do a really bad plank. So let your belly drop, let it kind of sag, let your shoulder blades go together. Let's fix it from here. So this is what we don't want to do. Starting with your hands, spread all 10 fingers really wide apart like jazz hands. Push into the bottoms of the palms of your hands and start to arch your upper back a little bit. Okay, so think of a Halloween cat. Fire through your thighs and press through your heels. So you should have one long line from the crown of your head down to your heels. Modification for this is knees down, but notice that my back is still flat. My knees are not in here. This is tabletop. This is not good for a plank pose. This is your modification for plank, okay? All right, come back into a traditional high plank. We're gonna go one other option here. So my returning students, Chaturanga will not show up for a little bit of time. We need to make sure we all have our props to learn that. So what we will do, and we're gonna do this 3 times, is move forward, drop your knees, hug your elbows in as you drop your chest, and then lower your chin. Press into the hands, straighten the arms, back to high plank. We'll do that 2 more times. Shift a little bit forward, knees, chest, chin, straighten the arms, lift the knees. 1 more time. Forward we go. Drop the knees, drop the chest, lower the chin. We're going to move to cobra pose from here. So flatten the tops of your feet, toenails on the ground. Roll your shoulder blades back, pull your sternum forward. Your chest comes forward. Now walk your inner thighs to touch and make your legs long. So reach your toes away from the crown of your head. Hug your elbows in close to your body. And try to lift your hands about 1 millimeter off the ground. So you gotta use your legs here rather than your hands. Good? All right, go ahead and stack one hand on top of the other. Relax your legs and just take a breath in and out. Okay, so those are pretty much the poses that we learned yesterday. I've got one more that I'm gonna show you, and that's from sitting. So go ahead, walk your hands up underneath your shoulders, push yourself up and back. Take a moment in your child's pose. And in child's pose, you can have your knees together or your knees a little bit apart, but you're gonna have your big toes touching. So it is a comfort thing. Notice in child's pose, Balasana, my belly is also on my thighs. From here, walk your hands in, lift yourself up, and then you're just gonna sit onto your bottom. This is another forward fold. So this is the same thing that you did standing, you're just sitting for this one. So bend your knees, okay, and then take a moment to move your flesh of your bottom out of the way, find those sits bones, sit nice and tall. Now you'll see my knees are very, very bent here. I'm gonna show you this a couple of different ways. So we used to teach this from here with the arms up, and then we extend forward, and then you can let your hands down to the ground or find your ankles or calves. Now, I don't know that all of you suffer from lower back pain, but I do. So coming from it from here to me is awful. It feels terrible in my low back. So for me, coming from it from here with my fingertips next to my hips, lift my chest and lengthen the spine, then I can come forward. Once my belly hits my legs, then I'll grab my calves or my ankles, and then I'll take a moment just to see, do I feel a stretch? Does this feel okay? Do I want a little bit more? If the answer is I'm good here, then this is where we stay. If you feel like you need more, then keep your belly on your thighs and press your heels forward. You want to look at your toes, not your knees, okay? So look forward at your toes and think about pulling your chest towards them a little bit, okay? This is called Paschimottanasana. It's just a seated forward fold. It's another one for the hamstrings. So it's the same pose you did on your legs, standing up, you're just sitting down onto your bottom. Okay, I'm gonna skip down dog for today. We'll move into that a little bit later. It is a very common pose we're gonna do a lot of, but it's one I really wanna make sure you are understanding how to do it the right way. Okay, so it's a little bit of a tricky one. It looks simple, and it is, but I want to make sure that we've got all the good, juicy stuff that needs to be understood. I'm going to teach you just 2 more things today. That is a lunge and a half split. So come back to your tabletop position. And then let's just step your right foot up to your hand. So you're gonna go ahead and step your right foot up. Now I'm gonna turn to face you guys for just a moment. So in your lunge position, you've got your knee above your heel. So this is a 90-degree angle. Not that I think that you guys don't know 90 degrees, but you need to really know it in here. So from your lunge, 90 degrees in the front leg, and then you'll start 90 degrees in the back knee too. My toenails are flat on the ground, they're not curled under here, but you'll bring your hands to your hip bones. You're gonna pull your right hip back a little bit, which is gonna pull the left one forward. So the foot that is behind you, that hip needs to come forward. And then from here, just sort of sink down. Okay, you've got to keep the lower belly in and strong, or you'll feel it in the low back. This is your low lunge position, all right? We'll go into high lunge a little bit later. From low lunge, we're gonna go into our half split, which you guys will see a ton of because it feels good. So you're gonna start to come out of that front foot, lift yourself up, keep moving your hips back. At the same time, you're gonna lift your right toes off the floor and then place your hands on the mat. This is a time where yoga blocks are very helpful. If you're really tight in the hamstrings, you can use one block under each hand. It'll lift the floor a little higher and make it a little bit easier. But this should feel fantastic in the hamstrings. So a couple of things you need to know. Dig your heel into the floor, pull your toes to your nose, and bring your chest forward, okay? That's it. So we're gonna just switch that to the other side, but we're gonna stay here for 3 more breaths. 2 more. And last one. Good. Let's step back into the right foot. Frame it with both hands. Lean a little into the left side and step your right foot back to tabletop. Shift into the right. You're just going to lift your left leg. Step the left foot up to the left hand. Okay? This is your low lunge. Remember, drop your hips here. Pull your chest forward. Keep your lower belly up and in. And we'll take 1 more breath. Inhale, pull your toes up off the ground on that left foot, walk your hands back, and shift into your half split. So the important things here, toes to nose, heel to the ground, knee a little bit soft, get that hamstring stretch, should feel good. Okay, 1 more breath. Go ahead and step forward into that left foot. Lean a little to the right. Bring the left knee in to meet that right leg. And we'll sit into our child's pose. Just a couple breaths here. We're going to move into a Shavasana. Just to finish our class in a positive way. Walking hands in. Go ahead and flip your body over. You're going to end class in Shavasana today, which remind you that is the pose itself. That is your corpse pose. If you've got something happening in low back today and this doesn't feel good, bend your knees, flatten the feet, take your feet 1 heel toe out a little bit wider, and then inner knees will come into touch. You can take your arms out wide to a T. You could take them overhead and grab your wrists or forearms. You could take them down by the side bodies. Palms face up and pull the shoulder blades in so that your heart is really open and proud. This will be a brief meditation today, nothing crazy, just a nice little way to finish our time together. Big breath in through the nose. Big breath out through the mouth. Inhale, and as you breathe in this time, I want you to think about something that you've been telling yourself that you want to change, and then exhale it out. So on this next breath, think about that again. And as you breathe out, imagine that you're pushing out anything negative that's sort of hanging on in your mind. When the body gets still, the mind likes to start to go to work. It's not used to not doing things. So we have to give it something to do when we're new to meditation. And the easiest thing to do is to keep returning back to your breath. But today I'm going to ask that you find a mantra. So a mantra is just a positive statement that we repeat to ourselves over and over again in the hopes that eventually we will ingrain it into our minds and remember it and believe it. That's the important thing. So whether you are struggling with your workload from school or just, maybe feeling overwhelmed, perhaps you have a job and a sport that you are involved in right now on top of everything else, or maybe you're just kind of struggling with some self-esteem stuff. And trust me, we all do. Even as adults, we have self-esteem issues that come up. So I want you to think about the biggest thing that you are struggling with right now. And then add a positive remark to that instead of the negative. So for example, if you are just feeling like completely overwhelmed with your school and family life, and you just keep saying, I cannot handle this, I cannot do this, this is not going to work, I want you to just repeat to yourself, I am strong, I am determined, and I can do all the things. I am strong, I am determined, and I can do all the things. One more time. I am strong, I am determined, and I can do all the things. We'll stay here for just a few breaths. You feel free to repeat that mantra over and over as much as you need, or just allow yourself to kind of veg out. Begin to deepen your breath. And invite a little bit of movement into your fingers, a little movement into your feet and your toes, maybe even kind of wiggle them if you want to circle your wrists some, maybe even do the same with your ankles. And we'll slowly work both knees into the chest for our Apanasana pose. And then if it feels good, you want to draw a few circles with your knees, feel free to do that too. From here, we'll keep the eyes closed, scoot the hands behind the backs of the legs, rock about 2 or 3 times until you can come all the way to your Sukhasana. And then just close the eyes if you open them to get yourself reoriented with where you are. We will finish our class in the usual way, so hands will come to prayer. Nice full big breath in, lengthen through the crown of your head, and then as you exhale, bow the fingertips or the forehead to the fingertips. So we will finish with our Namaste, and just to remind you, Namaste means the divine light in me honors the divine light in you. Have a beautiful day. Namaste. Okay, don't log off just yet. Remember, you've got 3 things you need to answer today. So your questions are, how many limbs are there to the yoga world? How many things make yoga what it is? What are the 2 things we talked about today? So there's 8 limbs. We talked about the yamas, okay, Y-A-M-A-S, and ahimsa is yama number 1, non-violence. So those are the 3 things I'd like you just to leave a remark in, okay? A little bit of a longer video. They'll be about 20 minutes or so just be prepared for that moving forward. Thank you guys for logging on. I look forward to hearing from you.